Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to Satsang. Just reminding you that we use WhatsApp as a means of communication. You can send your questions directly to me. So let's make some silence first. Nothing matters. Bring this to your mind. Nothing matters but the divine. Nothing else. From ignorance to truth. From ignorance to God. It is a straight line. No curves. A straight line. No desires can deviate me from that line. I have no time to waste with them. No attachments can slow me down. I have no time to waste with them. It is a straight line. Whatever is there disturbing my practices, my time, trying to distract, being an obstacle to silence, to deepening, that has to be taken out of the way by any means necessary. It is a straight line, no curves, no delays. I walk at the pace that God allows. The rest, whatever is in my hand, I take it away. I solve it, no matter the cost. Okay. So the straight line is the attitude that a seeker of truth must have so they can succeed, can continue, so that it can be on a living process. And that is the way. You see, The normal functioning is seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. This is a normal functioning of the mind, an attitude, a normal attitude. And in the quest for freedom, this attitude also is there, and there's this, but it changes from this pleasure into bliss, so seeking bliss and avoiding suffering. And this is a common mistake, fruit of ignorance, of course, but still it is there. So a normal life, lived in a normal way, it is lived with the premise that those basic fundamental aspects of life, security, nourishment, acceptance, and all of this, these are being fulfilled. So in the beginning, these are the most fundamental aspects, the more important. Then, of course, if you can succeed in these, if you can guarantee these ones, then prospering will be the next more important. So this is normal way of living. And this attitude, of course, goes also to the quest for freedom. Not the quest for freedom yet, because it takes a while to get to this point. So yoga, for example, speaks about a lot of this beginning stages. For example, you choose a meditation technique that your mind likes so that it can practice, so that it can feel good with it, so that it can allow the practice to happen and to continue. Of course, to create sanskars and all these things that will help in the long run. But eventually, it will have to become serious. And when it becomes serious, it changes. See, it changes from this walk in the park to an epic war. So all these scriptures, they speak about big wars. And it is not by accident, because this quest for freedom is a big epic war, the most difficult one. Because it goes backwards instead of forwards. So instead of building more safety and then prosperity on top of prosperity, and that means the seeker goes as he is to spirituality, and then he starts choosing the teachings, the techniques, all these things that he feels good, he feels right for himself, and he corrects this by especially this feeling of it is good or not good, if he's feeling good or not good, if he is more peaceful or less peaceful. So these are the beginning stages. But then to become serious, this has to go backwards in the opposite direction. Even the teachings that you were learning, you will learn this teaching, then you move to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And there's this idea, because for the mind this is very good. Something new, something changing. This is nourishment, food for the mind. More complex. The more complex it is, the better. And it keeps on feeding with this. But eventually it reaches a point that it has to empty all these teachings, have to go away, have to become more empty and more empty, so it goes backward in opposite direction. And so it happens also with whatever you have been building on top of these first premises, security, acceptance, and all of this that was mentioned previously. And this is the difficult part. And this is where if the right motivations are not there, it is impossible to continue. And this compass of feeling good will not work here. And as long as that compass is there, that's not yet the quest for liberation. It's just seeking higher pleasure, not liberation, not precisely. Because there is a reason why people seek security and acceptance, love, and all these things. There's a reason. Because not having them creates certain circumstances which are very difficult to bear. And these are the forces that compel you into action, that compel you and maintain illusion. So if you're in the spiritual circumstances, being propelled by the same needs, by the same forces, you're just feeding your illusion. So there's no point on you walking around in spiritual environments like a transcendental being, because you're just feeding your illusion. And the more transcendental you can look like, the more food you're giving to your illusion. So the quest for freedom has to go opposite to these forces that are compelling everyone. And they are pushing you just with two forces. One is seduction and the other is fear, bullying. So first, of course, you don't want to experience that. So you don't want to touch the fear because that is the big one. So seduction comes and you go after things, circumstances, whatever pops in your mind without questioning from where it comes from. What's its role? And you just move around, investing. And if this starts to fail, if you start questioning these images, if you start cutting these investments, then fear comes to straighten you up, to put you in your place, to go back to the same old investments, to the same old life, the one that you know. And in spiritual life, it is the same. And these days, especially because it has been advertised as some kind of therapy, spirituality. And of course, it does correct certain aspects. It is a side effect. It puts things more or less into balance, to break it after, of course, but this aspect is not mentioned because it doesn't sell. So these pleasure seekers become bliss seekers, and the same confusion continues. So you have to question yourself and to look what is being your experience, and look around to the worldly structures that surround you. Are they improving? Are they becoming better? How is your connection to the divine? Are you losing attachments? Are you growing, expanding within? Is guidance there? Do you feel it is growing intensely? So the one that you see that it is growing, that is your real investments. So if these feelings of insecurity, if they are not coming, it is not the quest for freedom yet. And not coming, wait, let me just clarify this. If they are not coming as a result of your spiritual choices, are your spiritual choices bringing this unsafety, this feeling of insecurity? Are those choices really going against your human aspirations, your needs? Because if they're not, it hasn't really started yet. You're just in a normal functioning in a more spiritual context, seeking the same things, security, approval, all of those things. And look, there is a difference. You may be there like mastering a language of these spiritual places, mastering a way of behaving so that others feel that you are spiritually evolved or free. But in these previous investments, these worldly investments, they aim for happiness. All investments aim for happiness. This is how you have learned to do things. But the thing is, those worldly investments, they don't have it. In the quest for freedom, happiness is reality. So as you continue to choose to impersonate freedom, to impersonate a blissful state, to just hanker for these well-being feelings, you're removing yourself from the real experience. What's the logic in that? That which maintains you in illusion are these forces that I talked previously. And if you just think a little bit, that body lasts just a few years, so what safety is there? What decides that? Is it really in your hands? Whatever you built, you leave behind. So there must be something that is not left behind. There must be a reason, a purpose for things to be that way. And spirituality, The science of spirit has a long tradition, a serious tradition. Not in these modern days. There is some seriousness, but there is too much confusion. But look back, look to the past. Tradition is there, untouched, solid, and serious. Bringing the same values that you had in your worldly life to your spiritual life doesn't make it a spiritual life, just a worldly life, just in different circumstances. For you to progress, you will have to break the chains that are making you do curves in your spiritual quest, avoiding suffering, however it is manifesting. Eventually you'll find out there's no way to deviate. The more you try to deviate, if you're a serious seeker, the more you will get caught after. You will have to see this. The more smart you think you are, the more you'll be hit on the head. And that is for your higher good, of course. It is giving you a chance. So these dependencies from desires, attachments, fears, all of these things, you have to break the chains of this. This is the straight line. As you are moving without deviating, if you don't have guidance yet, no problem. But if you're having your spiritual practice as the main thing, even, okay, in the beginning, some seekers choose to find a place where they can practice, and this is good also. But if this is done to have this security, then, well, at some point this will have to be broken also. So whatever you have as a condition now, use it. More or less. I will explain. Just take up the least possible just to sustain your spiritual practice. Some kind of a work, just the amount enough to maintain you, and something that can allow you to continue your practice, or some sort of practice. And you keep your north as your spiritual practice. And whatever is disturbing it, not allowing it to grow, you will take out. Whatever is helping, you will increase. Just with these premises, fears will start arising. And the key is to persist without doing anything to change these perceptions of fear. This is how you outgrow them. This is how they lose power over you. And if you're not facing these forces in a direct way, yeah, you're just still warming up, whatever that means. There are people warming up that they never even run. But these words are for seekers of truth, those who may be and are for sure confused, mistaken, because the power of illusion is to wrap you up, to involve you into these needs, feelings, investments, and all of this, is to persuade you that this is right opposite to that. Giving the highest credits to these voices that actually know nothing. If your compass is that which makes me feel good is good, and that which brings some kind of discomfort, tension, not good, spiritually speaking, then you are deluded still. You haven't really understood. Either you're not mature enough for it, and it will come to you, or, well, that is what you're looking for, this well-being and not truth. So that is your only compass possible. But if you're a seeker of truth and you're seeing this compass there, this choosing what makes me feel good, then you are in the opposite direction. And for sure, absolutely sure, the straight line is not there. No straight line there. And don't confuse the spiritual presence, the spiritual intensity of the spiritual work with just these nice feelings. That is confusing lukewarm water with boiling water. For sure, that straight line is not there. And in each and every one of you, that will certainly be the case. And if you put things on the right place and you're pushing through the straight line, you will see that in a matter of days, things tend to deviate. And you see it just in a matter of days because it is very subtle each day. Then, in a few days, you see the big distancing that you couldn't see previously. And you have to put it back in place again. The powers of illusion don't take rests. They don't take vacations. They work ceaselessly, continuously, tirelessly. So should you, if you want to succeed. There's no stopping in the middle. You see, it's like, or you're moving up or you're moving down. In the middle, nobody stays. So if you're not moving up, you're moving down. So in that moment, when things start to become challenging, if it's just sweetness, a little bit of challenge, it's not in the right direction. And the last thing you want is to master that transcendental being. And the more you evolve into that language, into that way of behavior, the more difficult it will be to come out of it, because it corrupts deeply. So it is better for you to put a mean face, if it is what's inside, and start putting a smiling face to hide what's inside and to attract what's outside. The more you master spiritual languages, behaviors, the more doom, the more work you will have to do to get out from that. The more the world is questioning what you're doing, the more it is opposing your spiritual work, really opposing your spiritual work, the more you are doing something right. And you will see these oppositions from others, from circumstances, and from yourself also. If things are going more or less in agreement with you and with others and circumstances, not there yet. Not there yet. And there is a blessing. There's a blessing for spiritual seekers that is there present for the serious ones. And that is that no one will understand what you're going through. Those who are in spirituality, they will not understand what you're going through. And the more closer you are to that straight line, less comprehension you will get. And that is a blessing, because that going as a herd, it is the direction of distraction. Keeps you tuned to that group mind instead of being tuned with the source. So the thing that the seekers complain the most, one of the things they complain the most, not being understood, having no one to talk about it, it is actually a blessing. Because if you want to find a place where you can be more distracted from the quest for truth, go to a spiritual environment. Mingle with spiritual people. So for the serious seeker, and those who are serious, they can see this thing. They can see it. Of course, you have to respect it. Everybody has its own time. And tradition is there. Solid, rock solid. So respecting others and their stages, it is important, and respecting yourself also is important. And by respect, it means maintaining that straight line. And sometimes that straight line seems also disrespect to you or others. But that is only because of your present level of understanding. And the more you tune with yourself, the more you intensify your spiritual practices, the more you focus on it, making your life just to support that, then that process becomes alive. You will have to go through that inner war, that epic war. And that's very intense. There's nothing as intense as that. Also filled with blessings, of course, but blessings, the sweet part, there's no need to speak about it, because there's no way that sweetness can derail you. The bitter part, yes. So in yoga, it is explained more or less that these pranic currents descend and manifest what is called creation, from the most subtle to the most dense. And through yoga, it is intended to counter, to make these downward currents flow backwards and return to its source. And that is going against all laws of nature. And this is the process of awakening. It's not about make-believe. If you affirm this long enough, it has nothing to do with that. You will have to be exposed. You can go through this as a preparation, but you will be exposed to this. And then comes if you continue the straight line, or if you stray from it. The more you stray from it, the more difficult it becomes. But still, it is possible. It is always possible, but it always becomes more difficult. So it starts with the question, what do you really want? Is it freedom? Or the fruits, the expected fruits from freedom? Is it God, or is it God's glories? So if you want, examine yourself. See what is the compass that is driving you. But even this exercise demands a level of honesty. So stay with this some time. And don't accept those ready-made answers that come as you ask the questions. Observe it, the mechanisms, how you're functioning. And you will see these principles there. And then, well, then you'll do what you think is best, according to what you're really looking for. And knowing helps a little bit, but it only makes a difference if you stand by what you know. So at the level of the mind, you may know that this is the right thing, but then at other levels, things will not be that way. So you will have to uphold yourself to that, what you already know. If you don't, it doesn't make a difference. Understand that your heart will desire freedom, but the rest in there will be against it. So this is emptied. It is filled with silence. So that which is really important can take over. From darkness to light, from illusion to reality, it is a straight line. Keep that straight line. No matter what comes, what is threatening that will happen, because your mind will paint the worst scenarios. And to the worst scenarios, the only thing you have to say is, so what? Okay. So next satsang will be Saturday, 9 o'clock in the morning, Brazilian time, UTC -3. Whenever you have questions, you can send now or whenever you're seeing the video, and I will answer in the next satsang. So until then, you make the best use, reflect, and put things in the right place. Okay, watch.